Hello, everybody. Welcome. I guess we start by addressing why at the top of the show we aren't the show that was originally promised, because people would have seen the things leading up to this episode, the week leading up, that we had an episode of Chewed Gum, and I suppose that was scheduled rather optimistically, because the thought when I asked them if they would like to do their show on Wednesday instead of Tuesday that week was, whichever way it goes, but more thinking it would go one way, this is going to mean, today's election is going to mean a lot more to women than it would be to men. Now, this is despite the fact that I obviously have been calling it for over a month, and trust me, I'm going to take some, well, I won't call them victory laps, but maybe a couple of I told you so's in a few minutes. But even though I was certain that Trump was going to win again, I still had some hope out, and we were going to do that sort of special episode. Now, it became clear today that the best thing and kindest thing to do would be to actually let the two of them spend time instead with people they love, with their own support group, their own friends, and to basically just not do that, to not subject them to this. And to tell you the truth, that doesn't mean that Matt and I are particularly keen to subject ourselves to this. However, I did feel it was necessary we do some kind of show tonight. This is that show, and it probably won't look a lot like other shows, even other Cuz I Wannas. I think first what we're going to do is address the elephant in the room, talk a little bit about what happened last night, talk a little bit about how we're feeling, maybe talk about how we intend to handle how we're feeling right now, and then a little bit of what's next. And then once that's done, we'll probably open lines and take calls. We actually have lines open right now. There are people who are kind of queuing up. I'm not certain that the people who are queuing up are going to want to remain in if we decide to go the direction that I have in mind, but we're kind of going to feel this out as it goes. And then finally, to people who may want to super chatting, we're not going to guarantee. I think today's going to be a short show, because I think that's what's best for everybody. But I think it's going to be a short show, and I can't guarantee that super chats are going to be read. Obviously, we very much appreciate the support. In a little way, I want to be, well, we'll get to it all. But for the moment, I'm Jimmy Snow. This is Matt Dillahunty. Matt, my brain wanted to go, how are you? Of course, I know how you are. It's almost a silly question to ask. So instead of asking it instead of a hello way, let me ask you actually for real, how are you?
Really bad. Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
I did stream some on Twitch today and took some questions. Had a few trolls show up because that's the way my Twitch stream always goes. And I got raided, and we had, normally there's like 30 or 40 people in there, and we just kind of chat, hang out, and I'll search for snakes and play some chess and do some other stuff that's kind of fun, maybe play Isaac or something. But today I was just, Arden went off and basically played some Fortnite and kind of distracted herself from things. And we took the day off, although technically I still streamed, and now we're doing this show. But
yeah,
I have so many thoughts on so many things. I should have taken notes. I am making plans to get my passport renewed. I'm making plans to quickly settle a lawsuit and get a couple of other things resolved, so that the bulk of the problem aspects of my life that I can control are now controlled, so that after we spend 4 years fighting, fascistic Christian nationalist Project 2025, somebody put the idiots in charge crap, we can in 2028 then be in a position where if we need to leave or find a new place, we potentially can. Because as it stands right now, I don't think there's any practical path where in the next year or two, I would actually be able to sell my house and move somewhere. I think there's too much with the house and the snakes and the other stuff. And people are like, whoa, wait a minute. Why are you talking about moving? Jimmy made a really good point today. A couple actually, but one of them is that it's one thing to be living in a red state when there's a blue president and some options that way. We just last night, by the way, if there's a nation out there that is looking for a public facing secular representative, I would be happy for some country to buy out my entire property and all my stuff and move me and all of my animals and my partner to your country to be the secular representative for your country, except that I'm actually not. It's a nice thing to kind of potentially fantasy too. But the reality is the United States people decided to elect someone yesterday that will take office on January 20th. And he will be president again. And he will have a Republican Senate. And he will probably have a Republican House. And he will definitely have a conservative-leaning Supreme Court. That's the nightmare scenario. That is everything that needs to happen. And there's one additional thing. And that is, without digging in and pointing directions or pointing fingers, one thing that Jimmy and I talked about before the show, which I guess we could build up and do separately, but I just think it's so important to hit it right off the top so everybody knows. All the times when people said, hey, if I'm not in a swing state, why is it a problem for me to vote for a third party? And we talked about political capital and we talked about being elected with a mandate. The one thing that we didn't mention often enough is that the Republicans hadn't won the popular vote in 20 years, but it appears that last night they did. And because it appears like they did win the popular vote by millions of votes, Trump has rightfully claimed that this gives him a mandate representing the majority of the public to put into place all of the things that he promised. So yes, those of you who voted third party in California, you helped give Trump a mandate. You helped ensure that he would win the popular vote. But there's a lot of blame to go around, and we're going to talk about a lot of blame to go around. So, just a few minutes before we went live, I was like, my beard is unwieldy, and I will cut it down and feel more like me maybe afterwards. So, you know how when people go through a tragedy and then they cut their hair short in the movie every time? That's kind of what we're saying I did, even though literally it was a spur of the moment thing after I got out of the shower before the show.
Yeah, I feel like as far as changes and transformations and things going on, look, I'm going to give my most selfish reason, and this is not the one that matters at all, because it's something that I see as more of a duty bound. But I have to come up with something because Matt took all my good points. I'm just kidding. But I have bad news for some.
To be fair, I credited you with them, and
I know,
Jimmy should definitely get all the credit for the good things I said.
I'm teasing. But I have bad news for some of you, and I have good news for I think much fewer than of you. One of the things that I'm coming to grips with that I'm not stoked about, and I'm sorry that this is how people are going to feel that I'm not stoked about it, because it'll sound very privileged to even feel this way, but this means I'm not quitting. I'm not quitting my hosting role. I mentioned this on the show last month, that the number one reason I want Harris to win is I feel like that will leave us in a position where I feel I can responsibly move to the back and just be pure production. And now quite the opposite. Now we're looking at the gaps we have in our schedule and trying to decide what is the best way to incorporate some kind of political show in the future, perhaps on a Friday or Saturday, while we have these other things we want to work on. We have incredible talent at the line. We don't need to restrict ourselves to only call-in shows, maybe only call-in shows on the line, though admittedly, last night I finally broke our streak and allowed us to do a completely call-free show. I'm trying to remember if I at least called somebody on speakerphone. I don't think I did. I may have tried to call Forrest, but I think he was in the shower. The question becomes, where do we go from here? And I will tell you that I messaged Andrew Seidel earlier, wrong device here, Andrew Seidel earlier, and just said, what would you want us to say? And he basically said, well, I'll give my commentary after, but go support the secular groups, the human rights groups, the immigration groups, the abortion groups that are going to be on the front lines. And that's true. And we're talking now, some of you would have been swept up in a good way. That word maybe has different connotations, but that phrase in a good way, with the whole like activation to go and work on phone banks and do that kind of thing. And now we're going to ask you to hold on to that and not wake up today and go, all right, I give up. Now we're going to ask you to do things like go and volunteer for Recovering from Religion. If you can operate a phone from home, they need people for their 24/7 call-in line for people who are going through and just need a little bit of direction, a little bit of a path, a little bit of maybe being directed to the right people. Go and support RFR. As far as we are here, you should see it probably pop up in the next 24 hours. Next weekend, we are going to do what I now think is, originally I was excited for this fundraiser as a like, good, I want to network with those people anyway, and they're a cause that I think is good. Now I'm sitting here going, clearly the next generation are the people we need to be investing the most in, because the current generation seem to have fucked it up. And so we're going to be doing a fundraiser next weekend for the Secular Student Alliance, the SSA as it were. And we're going to try to raise, I think our goal is going to be $35,000. And we're going to ask people to right now, while it hurts, and now while they are not a political organization, they have to be careful with their what they say politically. I'm not saying I'm representing the SSA in this fund, but I do genuinely believe that the proper pursuit of secular humanism, positive atheism, the kinds of things we've been talking about for years, can be best served by young people. And I think that the SSA and the potential future that has, and the absolute chance that we might have of seeing a world and an America that's more worth living in, not just within Matt's lifetime, but my lifetime. And keep in mind, I'm 1/5 the age of Matt. I think that it's important. I think that we could go, I think it will be important for us to both have that fundraiser and maybe signal to people that we recognize that the number one way to fight the political problem that is happening right now isn't necessarily an overtly political thing, but an anti-Christian nationalism thing, an quote unquote, pro-life movement. These will be the other things. Like I said, Andrew talking about secular human rights groups, immigration groups, abortion groups, these things that individually politics are a part of, but the humanity is much more a part of. Now, I know that a lot of people today and yesterday, only some people caught that. Yes, that was a joke. I'm not 1/5 the age of Matt.
You're 11. I always assumed you were 11.
That's where I got this beard. It's because you see what happened was my parents sent me to school and they said, Jimmy, I love you so much. And then he came back with a surgery looking completely different. Well, that's his quote. And my name's Jimmy, so it worked.
I can't, your impression is so good that I'm having like trauma listening to it.
The impression's banned for the day. Sorry, people. But, where was I? On the Secular Student Alliance, and things not being overtly political. My condolences. I said it yesterday, but actually it's looking like it is worse today. A lot of people are waking up, and today is when their family members and people they love and friends they have are saying, I actually did vote for him. I'm sorry, and they are especially responding to when a person will make a post of going, just so you know, if you voted for Trump, that means you voted to harm me and I don't feel safe around you now. Our friendship is not unaffected by you voting against my human rights, by my civil rights, and then them getting messages back of like, oh, well, this is just politics is a ridiculous thing to get upset about and cut people off about, when just ask them to define what politics is. Human rights are a part of politics, and human rights are worthy of a boundary. And yesterday, as I put it on Threads, we had a lot of things on the ballot, including, just to put as ineloquently as possible, rape was on the ballot. And yesterday, rape won. Because right now we have a rapist who is president-elect, who has also laid the groundwork that has already denied rape victims, abortions, including to little children who had to go to other states to have their incestual rape fetus aborted. So that's where we are. That's that's the world we're in. And right now, a lot of you are not just mourning the fact that Donald Trump has won. You are mourning the fact that you are finding out that you are surrounded by people and thought you were loved by people and that you love people who are not very good people, who are at best, they are ignorant, and at worst, they are maliciously awful. And that sucks.
What's really weird? By the way, if a Morgan embiggens me, I still have the AP electoral map up to potentially peruse. As it stands right now, I will jockey that up just a little bit so that everybody can see it. They still haven't called Arizona, only 65% reporting, and there's genuinely enough votes remaining that Arizona could go either way. All we know is that right now it's leaning red, but honestly, what direction something is leaning is not necessarily an indicator of where they're going to actually end up. Additionally, they haven't called Nevada, which is at 85% reporting. So there's not a lot of votes left there. And honestly, it looks like 85%. There's probably just enough votes yet to potentially throw it to Kamala, but as it's trending right now, it definitely looks strongly Trump. As we sat here last night, I put together my most optimistic map, which was wrong, because North Carolina went to Trump. Georgia went to Trump. Had a black woman running for president, and Georgia went to Trump. I'm dumbfounded. Pennsylvania went to Trump. Michigan went to Trump. Wisconsin went to Trump. Minnesota kind of barely went to Harris. Virginia. If you look at this, Virginia barely Harris. Oh, they've called Maine for Harris as well. Like 52, 50. If you go to Vermont, though, 64% for Harris. And yet I know people in Vermont who actually voted for Trump, despite having trans kids. Fucker. New York, 56. Connecticut, 55%. Massachusetts, 61. If you go through, where's the big things? Well, obviously, Texas was 56% to Trump. Oklahoma, 66% Trump. I find it a little funny, and I'm not at all picking on Seth, but Seth's prediction was like 60-40 Kamala, and he actually got it completely backwards for what Oklahoma was going to do. Just wrong about what the nation was going to do. But, you know, if you live in a state that goes 60-40 one way, I can completely understand why you might wish for the rest of the nation to go 60-40 the other way. But it's big wins. It is 58% in Missouri, 57 in Kansas, 60 in Nebraska, 63 in South Dakota, 67 in North Dakota, Montana, 58%, Wyoming, 72%, Idaho, 67%, Utah, 59%. It's a huge win in most of these. The place with the biggest wins for the Democrats, I mean, even Washington State was only at 59%, Oregon's 54%, California was only 57%. There is no state with landslide type performance like what Trump's got. Trump's going to win the popular vote. He's sitting at 72.2 million right now. First time in 20 years they've won the popular vote, and that gives him a mandate, which means that all the work that we need to do over the next 4 years at least just got massively harder, because you have someone as president with a Republican Senate. That's already confirmed. If we go over to the Senate, the GOP's got at least 52, and there are still some races out there, but they're at 52. And when you go to the House hasn't been called yet, but right now it's sitting at 205, 190, and it's not outside the realm of possibility that Republicans could take over the House, which would give them control of every single branch of the government. And also, I'd like to point out something we didn't get to mention last night, and that is here in the shithole state of Colorado, which is better than the shithole state that I live in, Lauren Boebert won the Colorado 4th. So a carpetbagging dipshit of epic proportions just won their carpetbagging race in a new district in Colorado. A state that went blue on the presidential election.
Bring me back.
You can pop Jimmy back up.
Okay.
Again.
I was like, gosh, bring me back. You can't hear me when I'm saying. So I do want to point out
you
in
were
Colorado
muted that whole time.
Yeah. It's set to auto mix based on who's on there.
Okay. I wish I'd have thought of that. Sorry.
The good news is Lauren Boebert only won because she had to move to a district by which she could win. She had actually already been rejected by her district and got out primaried there. And so that area that you see where she won, nobody lives there, but they still get a representative. It's kind of bullshit. Colorado is still probably on par with like the West Coast states as safest places in the country. In fact, anybody who has the means and they're asking where they should go if they can't leave the country and they're like trans or queer or whatever, or need abortions, it's going to be Colorado for me. Colorado doesn't mind being defiant to the federal government when they are fascistic.
I don't mean to push back, but when I look at the actual numbers, and I don't know this district, but she got 53% of the vote and she got 213,000 votes. That means there's almost 400,000 or maybe more than 400,000 people in that area. That's more than some states just for the Colorado 4th.
Yeah, I feel you. It is a very big stretch of land. So I guess I more meant like Denver itself has a population of 5 million, I think it is. And now in the last few years, that's even exploded. And yet,
well, if you look at those
few 100,000 people get a whole rep. So
in the Colorado 1st, the Democrat won, and Diana DeGette is the incumbent for the Colorado 1st. She only got 189,000 votes. In the second, the Democrat won with 236,000 votes. In the third, there's a Republican winning with 184,000. And in the fourth, Lauren got 213,000. So she got almost as many votes as the Democrat who won Colorado's second did. So there's
yeah, that is wild. That is wild that the activity. Then again, we know that a lot of people that Trump is out, and those places, while not enough to overwhelm the state, those voters would have shown up. Thank you. Zach K says refund every pro-Trump super chat if you can do that. Unfortunately, I can't, but I'll take their money and your money. Thank you. But there is no way to refund them, but we can do what what Armand just did.
I wouldn't give them a fucking penny.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot. First of all, there's a lot that I could be sitting here and just be super pissed off about. And I think when Matt and I talked this morning about it, that's where my mind was. Then that's where I was like, oh, and look, I still am going to take my one victory lap because some of you watching will be people who left comments. I ate so much shit for the last month and then especially the last week because I had been saying that what happened was going to happen. In fact, if you go to my threads right now, I challenge you to find a leftist out there who has a more accurate map than me. Because the only thing so far I am wrong on is Wisconsin. I thought Walz had enough popularity there to carry Wisconsin. Nevada I might also be wrong on, but right now I'm sitting out of 48 of 49 states, and I will not finish worse than 48 out of 50, it would appear. I'd like you to find somebody on the left who actually beat me on that, and yet so much shit I ate, so many comments. And today, I'm going to be honest, I sort of pettily did go to one of my, one of the threads in which a person like quoted me and was like, look at this idiot saying whatever. And I just started replying like ... just to remind people. So for example, let's see, I had posted, I can't tell you the amount of 2016 vibes I'm getting from all these "she is definitely going to win" replies and posts. I posted that 5 days ago. And you have this person who wrote, in 2016, women didn't have to worry about losing the right to control their own bodies. Guess what? Trump won women. And in fact, this is one of the moments, one of the times where we have to look at things and realize we need to disillusion ourselves, not with only our opposition, but our own side. And one of the things that got sent, one of the things that is hard to say, and listen, we're definitely going to have a black person on at some point to talk about this, because hearing it from my white face isn't going to make you feel any better. Or, I'm not necessarily the one to give a lecture on it, but our group had this idea, the left has this idea, that if a person comes from an oppressed minority, they won't have other bigotries. And the thing that we found out that people had actually warned us of before, including, I can remember one conversation I had on this channel, is that do not count on black men to vote for a black woman. Do not count on queer people to vote for a woman. Do not count on women to vote for women, because patriarchy seeps into, and by the way, those are tough things to hear, again, coming from my mouth. I am willing to blame white supremacy and patriarchy for all of those, because they seep into every one of those communities. And one of the darkest fucking things we have, worse in America than other countries, is that our form of patriarchy has successfully convinced women to, specifically, a lot of women, not every woman watching, certainly, a lot of women, to find the idea of another woman succeeding as awful. There is a huge, everybody watching won't, even if somebody pretends they're offended by it, they all know people like this. There is a huge number of women who do not like other women to succeed. And guess what? That is the simplest answer to what happened yesterday when you look at some of the polling. Now, black women did come out for Kamala Harris. Black women, I have no notes for you. None. You did come out. White women, fuck you. Because white women voted against their own abortion rights last night, right? Queer people are amongst this group of people who, once again, were like, well, my vote's not going to matter in these different states or whatever. And we're more likely to abstain than we had seen before. But we're going to see all the exit polling on it. And again, because the popular vote, listen, whether or not it's going to change what he would have done is one thing. But the fact of the matter is Trump does get to use what everyone who's ever won the popular vote and the presidency has done, which is, this means it's a mandate. It means more than just I won. It means they expect me to do my agenda. And you had Matt Walsh, the fuckface today, go, I guess we can now admit, he wrote on Twitter, I guess we can now admit that Project 2025 is the agenda. These people who are associated with like Turning Point USA and Ben Shapiro's group, who have been a big part of the PAC money and will be a big influence on the legislation that comes forward. The thing that was different about me than everybody who got it wrong, and so yes, I am taking it, is I didn't count on bigotry to not be in all of these groups, for there not to be bigoted people in all of the groups that we're saying that we were trying to represent, and that sexism would affect some of the groups and racism would affect some of the groups. And that is bearing out. Go for it.
Latino men in 2020, Latino men voted 60-40 for Biden. In 2024, Latino men voted 60-40 pretty much for Trump.
Yeah.
What's the difference? They say their number one issue is economy. I think part of this is, and the Dow got a bump today and other stuff got a bump today. Like, I'm not good with money. I got money problems every day of my life. But I understand the basics of economy so that I can look at data and show that, in actuality, per individual's spending power is better under Biden than it was under any president in the history of the United States. Trump was second. And so, yes, people had pretty good spending power under Trump, but Biden's better. Now, is some of that because of Trump's economy rolling over a little bit? Is it better because we were recovering from the pandemic? Yes, all of those things are true. But when you say, are you better now than you were 4 years ago? The factual, data-driven answer is yes. While individuals may in fact be worse off and people are feeling it at the grocery store and all that stuff, the economy isn't your bank account, just like climate isn't today's weather. And when we're looking at fixing climate change, you don't get to go, gosh, look at all those people saying the global climate change is a big deal, but it's cold as hell here right now, and so therefore they're wrong. That's exactly the same as all these people saying the economy's good, but my bank account's been drained. Yes, because you spent 4 years recovering from a pandemic. Yeah, but also look at what it costs in the grocery store. Yes. And this is why, when Harris was looking at this stuff, it was, let's work on price gouging and let's do things we can to make certain stuff affordable. But the reality is, right now, I mentioned Trump sitting at 72 million votes. In 2020, Biden had 81 million votes. Turnout is just down. Participation is just down. And then some people who voted one way in 2020 decided to vote the other way. Now, is it because of sexism? Probably some of it. Is it because of racism? Probably some of it. Is it because about misinformation about the economy? Probably some of it. I'm not going to pretend to know what the answers to all of it is, but that's the facts. Like, there were fewer people that voted, and it's not even close.
Yep. As far as calls
go,
go,
person spamming in chat to try to get my attention.
Oh, I have no idea. I don't know. As far as calls go, we're going to hit lines in a moment, but I'm going to let everybody know we're not going to debate tonight, probably. Certainly, if you call in not wanting to debate, we're not going to force anyone into a debate. I actually think I'm just going to say we're not going to debate tonight. I think we're going to run through the calls we have quickly. And then I think we're going to say, right now, there's not much we can do but review. And in fact, I think that that's going to be the theme of the calls. And I think that's why taking a lot of calls tonight won't be very productive. But let me go ahead and I'm going to show you what I mean by that. And I'm going to bring on, we'll start with Morgan in New Mexico. Morgan, we're going to make this call rather quick. But Morgan in New Mexico, first of all, hi.
Howdy.
Hi, Morgan. What is your question? I see it in the notes here, but I'll let you go ahead and pose it.
Yeah, the rules have changed, and I'm just wondering, as someone who finally got into a little bit of advocacy and political work this election with phone banking, I was planning after this election to get involved locally, and I'm just, how do I stay safe? Because I've read portions of Project 2025, and if they get even half of what they want legislated against the queer community,
Yeah. So Morgan, the reason why I was kind of prepping everybody for this and for this call and the way things are going to go, the answer I have for you right now is there probably will be a plan. I cannot tell you the day after the election, 2 months before he gets in, without knowing whether or not we will have a House that has the potential to at least be obstructionist and lame duck him for the next 2 years. I can't actually tell you what the plan is. And so I'm going to give you the same advice that Andrew gave. Whatever the thing is that is making this election horrible to you, whatever the one that's the worst, I suppose, or you can pick a couple, there's a group out there that needs your support and volunteer work. And you can probably, almost all of them have some need for even remote work. But if you can work on it locally, you can. So whatever the issues are for you, that's the starting point. But what is the plan? How, the title of this episode, sure, The Resistance Starts Today. That means we are here to tell you to have a defiant and resistant attitude, to not lay down. If you need the weekend, take the weekend, don't take 2. And soon we will be sharing more on this channel. And I'm sure people and activists that you are fond of will have more to share. Tomorrow we'll have the Transatlantic Call-In show, and we'll definitely be having, I don't know if she's on tomorrow, but Josie will be back on. And despite the fact, I will tell people who watched last night, I actually messaged Josie this morning and was like, just so you know, there isn't some I told you so coming. Last night we put a little bet down and wrote down our predictions on states, and we had 5 where we disagreed. And in the end, I was right on all 5. She was not on any of them. And that could be easy to, with a regular friend, just be like, oh, look who got it, who did it, look who's smarter than the politician. I'm not going to do that to my friend who lost way more than a bet last night. Because I'm a white dude, cis, I'm het passing. I'm not het, but I'm het passing. And I'm not delighted to have been correct at all. She lost way more than I call it a bet. I don't know what else to call it. We didn't put anything on it, but and so Josie is a person who last night I clearly was annoyed and offended by her optimism. And I realized today, think about how much she does and how hard she works. How would she be able to bring herself to do that in the face of all of this bigotry if she truly didn't have love and hope in her heart that things are going to be better, even now when right now they're much worse. And I assure you all, she recognizes how much worse it is. And so I don't have much more to share with you besides those things to just say, I don't know what the plan is for your safety yet. I celebrate that you are in a state that won't get hit the hardest first. But I wouldn't call New Mexico great. You're close to some states that are going to be better. But I don't have much yet to share with you as far as a plan besides do not decide to lay down. Not for more than a weekend.
Yeah, I'm not
Morgan, are you still there?
laying down. I've already cried the majority of the night, and now I'm just looking to be productive and put the mixed state energy into, being positive.
Yeah, to borrow a Mormon phrase from one of their songs, I too am ready to put my shoulder to the wheel for trans rights. I like that a Mormon would be very offended by what I just said for co-opting that. But Matt, do you have any thoughts you want to add to that?
Yeah, I appreciate, I love Josie and all the work that she does. And I'm kind of thrilled by the chance that she was optimistic. But the thing to remember, all of us, we all know, the polls are potentially unreliable. So we're looking at them all a little dubious. But we all live in this world where algorithms are feeding and reinforcing us. And there's been so much conflict. For example, I have a block list that is, I don't know, probably thousands of names. People who were in my Twitch stream earlier can see what I deal with on a daily basis, where somebody's just going to come in and try and troll. You can see it in chat here as well. So many irrelevant trolls wanting to get some attention, and we give them some attention. We do a call-in show. We, answer all this stuff. But whereas a lot of people are fed a perspective from their algorithm that may or may not relate to reality, and they never challenge it, Josie was in a position to not only challenge that, but to not recognize another bias, which is she is so deep in this. And by the way, while there are imperfections and certainly things to criticize, considering Harris had just thrown together an entire campaign in a couple of months. They raised a ton of money. They got a lot of enthusiasm on the road, but they didn't get enthusiasm at the ballot box. And, people can talk about why that is, who made a mistake, what mistakes were made, and everything. I can't do that, today. What I can say is that somebody who's actually out there phone banking and talking to voters the way Josie was, the way Arden did, they're getting something beyond what we get on this channel, which is they're actually having one-on-one conversations with some people and watching their mind change, or watching those people say, hey, I'm voting, for Kamala. We live in an era where who is going to pick up a phone for a pollster? Then you cut that down to who's going to actually answer the polls, to answer the questions. And then you cut that down further to who's actually going to answer honestly. How much of this is anonymous trolling, or, let's throw disinformation to the polls? I don't know. But
yeah,
Josie mentioned something during the live stream last night. And I talked to her briefly after the show was over to ask about it. And she was like, oh, if this happens, then that means everything we know about campaigning and polling is wrong. And she made it sound like essentially that's a fallacious line of reasoning to keep it, because she suggested that it seemed to be absurd that what we know about it could be wrong. But my thinking is, of course, what we know about it's wrong, because what we know about polling and campaigning is what people have put together in playbooks over the last 100 years. But things are dramatically different now than they were 20 years ago. The internet has put voices and views that shouldn't necessarily be considered equally on seemingly equal footing. You can get more misinformation and disinformation out and accepted by credulous, non-critical thinkers than ever before. And since we are in this, and we've watched already in 2016, I mean, we watched what happens. I'm gonna do my quick little spiel here for something. I apologize. We can go ahead, and it has nothing to do with Morgan. So,
oh, Morgan, we'll let you go then there if you want to watch the rest of the show after, and we're gonna let Matt do his spiel. But anything else before I let you go, Morgan?
Just thank you, Josie. Big heartfelt thank you for fighting for trans people with such ferocity and tenacity. And now I'm looking forward to hearing Matt's point.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Thank you, Morgan.
Thank you.
Bye.
So I feel gaslit every single day. I feel like I wake up in bizarro world every single day. And I've done these call-in shows for 20 years. I have had, I don't know how many conversations with theists, with people who believe in supernatural things. We've talked about, the foundations of epistemology. We've talked about how to create a logical argument, how to support it with evidence. There's a difference between, let's say, a Christian apologist like Than, who is a reasonable thinker and is going to offer up thoughts, and then someone like Ray Comfort, who is cartoonish and, is kindergarten level theology. It's just the simplest stuff and those. And then there's a third category, which is the people who don't appear to be very strongly tied to reality, who have bizarre things. I remember one of the two debates I walked out on, this dude shows up with a video and all kinds of numerology stuff to try and draw out this big planet. This is bizarre. When I listen to Trump, now I'm a public speaker who debates live, and I'm pretty good at taking notes, and I'm pretty good at analyzing a statement to figure out where the error is. Is there a hidden bias? Is there a fallacy involved here? Or is this just incoherent gobbledygook? Is it, the word salad that a lot of people suggest it is? I know that I'm good at that. And so when I hear someone like Trump, I'm sitting here listening, and if I were to jot down a transcription of what he said, it would be incomplete sentences and incomplete thoughts and several things that are incoherent. What he likes to call a weave. I'm doing a weave, whatever.
Oh, you got to do an impression.
Yeah,
I'll just do a worse one. Okay.
Yeah, I'm doing a weave, okay?
Fuck, where was I?
I knocked you off.
So when I'm imagine I'm sitting here next to somebody that I don't know. And Trump says one of the things that, to me, like if I diagram the sentences, if I analyze the sentence that he says, it does not make sense. Like there's not a coherent thought there. And not just when he's talking about Arnold Palmer's penis, but just in general. And yet the person sitting next to me is cheering and going, that's my guy. I strongly have to consider, am I crazy? Am I not nearly as intelligent and good at this as I thought? When I hear this, why is it that I hear something that is incoherent and does not portray a cogent thought, and the person next to me is cheering? The closest I've been able to get to assessing it, it's like the people who go see their favorite band and don't know the lyrics to any of their songs. So they're cheering without any comprehension of the lyrics because they like the music or the feel. And for whatever it is, the music and the feel of Trump just appeals to people. It seems to consistently appeal to people who are not bothered by whether or not statements are coherent or cogent at all. And the entire collection of reasonable people is being gaslit daily by the people who are cheering for and raising up gobbledygook and nonsense But it goes beyond that, because not like he just says something incoherent and they're like, that's my guy. He says something incoherent while being convicted of 34 felonies and sexual assault, being found liable for that, and staging an insurrection and trying to get his vice president killed, and saying he wants to be dictator for just a day, and saying that he wants to suspend the Constitution, and lying almost every time he opens his mouth in anything that can actually make sense. They're still cheering that on. When Hillary Clinton called them a basket of deplorables, she was right. Now, that doesn't mean that we're assessing the character of every Trump supporter, because I guarantee you there are Trump supporters out there that don't realize how much they've been duped. They don't realize how much misinformation they have. They don't even realize the consequences of their action will be the harm that they pretend doesn't exist. But there are plenty of others who know exactly what they're electing. Both people who are hooray, this is my guy, I want the Christian nationalism thing, and the people who are, yeah, anybody can be elected. I don't want another politician. I don't want a lawyer in office. I want a businessman, a failed businessman who's filed for bankruptcy like 6 times and managed to bankrupt a casino, and who, nobody would consider to be a good businessman based on his actual track record, who, by the way, made $1 billion in the last 24 hours as his election boosted DJT Enterprises stocks. Yeah. And so every single day I wake up and I am accosted by Trump supporters, and accosted by vegans, and accosted by third-party voters, and accosted by transphobes, and accosted by homophobes in this attack thing. And I have to think that it's because I have been at least somewhat effective in standing up and educating people about what's going on. But the truth is, I haven't been effective enough. Not that I could, I'm not going to you're not going to saddle me with the entirety of this election when we got 4,000 or 5,000 people, watching tonight. I can't possibly take responsibility for all that. But this election was the apathetic burnout election where, despite everything that happened, people couldn't be motivated to care about who was going to be hurt in this.
Yeah.
It is, where's my pocketbook? Where's my perception of my pocketbook? And what am I sick of? What am I afraid of? I'm afraid of the trans people. I'm afraid of the illegals. I'm afraid of this. I'm afraid of this. They played on everybody's fears to win an overwhelming landslide victory of perhaps the entire United States government.
Yeah,
I don't know what to do.
And it's bleak as fuck. And I keep thinking of, it's funny because as I go through a list in my head, I'm like, what if it was this that did it? What if it was this that did it? And at the end of the day, it is, all of them are. It's a whole list of things. Yeah. And the thing that I keep thinking about right now is honestly what was the responsibility of Biden and Harris? How much blame do they get? How much blame do third-party voters get? How much blame do abstainers get? You can have them all. You can have them all because it's all of them. And at the end of the day, Donald Trump is so chaotic, so insane, that when you put up Harris and they successfully made her just seem like the status quo, you had a lot of people who went, I don't want the same. I don't know what I want different. I don't even know how different works. I just know I want different. And Trump was different. And that's a part of why Trump won also. I will never forgive them for we're going to go status quo, but what if we go status quo plus we start trying to appeal to moderates and conservatives? I legitimately believe a 2008 style hard left Medicare for all, actually trying to run on a Bernie-like populist message for actually things people actually want and all agree on that they want, instead of this whole like, guys, I'm going to have Republicans in my cabinet. That's how status quo it's going to be. Was not anything anyone was interested in. But the other thing that really fucking annoys me is Donald Trump is going to have 4 years, and he won't get 4 years after. Hopefully he doesn't get to go after that. I think he probably won't actually try to go more than the 4 years, because he did stuff last time that had this sort of set of, if this goes bad, the next guy will have to deal with it. And he's going to get to do that again. He's going to get to make the stock market look like it's improving because he's going to do more tax cuts, even though that will further explode the deficit. And on a delay that the next guy will have to deal with is going to affect our economy. The tariffs, depending on when he times those, all these tariffs times those, all these tariffs that he is promising are going to cause massive inflation, and in fact contributed to the inflation we saw during the Biden administration, and the Biden administration had to work hard to keep down. He will also look like the president who all the benefits that come in from the Inflation Reduction Act, the infrastructure bill, they're going to come in under him. Yeah, he's going to get those numbers. Literally what he did with Obama, continued Obama's economy, but did a bunch of stuff that had a time delay to fuck us. And then they tried to fuck us. And Biden actually smooth landed us out of a lot of those situations, smoother than a lot of the rest of the world got. It's so frustrating because he will go down with all of these accomplishments that weren't his. And we will ignore all of the problems he did already made and will make more of in the future. I don't know. Do you want to do more calls? Do you want to maybe just switch to super chats? I have you seen the list of calls?
I wouldn't mind kind of, like I said, I don't want to argue. So for like, if we were to take the one Trump voter sentence. It just
There's two of them
could be kind of like, oh, here's why I did it. And we'll just take it under advisement. A friend of mine just tweeted or just posted something that I don't think is fully fair. And I don't know that this is the message that benefits anybody. And yet still, given what's happened, at least in Texas, this rings true. And it says, thanks, Martin. When your daughter has a miscarriage and dies of sepsis because she can't get the care she needs, be reassured because the gasoline you'll use to get her to the funeral will be cheaper than it is now.
It won't be, though.
It probably won't be. Because we're down at 2019 prices again already. All right.
I'm going to do them in reverse order. We'll make them short. Theo, you say you know why we lost. Make it quick. Go for it.
Yeah. So, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you, Theo.
Yes.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say you guys lost because you guys kept gaslighting America and kept making it seem like we were crazy for things that we saw that were obvious.
Theo, on the last time you called, you said, let me. The last time you called, you said you would vote for a homeless man over a qualified woman for president. I'm not going to argue. I said I wouldn't argue. I'm just going to point out that you said that. No, we're done. I said one sentence. Goodbye.
I was going to ask a question. I wasn't going to debate.
Oh, okay. So I already hung up. Yeah.
Oh,
Theo is not he's saying we were gaslighting to.
He was saying we were gaslighting America over things they've literally seen. When I just got done giving my soliloquy on being gaslit over things I've literally seen, I wanted to know what it was that Theo has literally seen that we gaslit over, because that to me sounds like a disinformation campaign load of bullshit.
I don't actually believe Theo's real because again, last time he said that he would vote for a homeless man over a qualified woman because his argument was women are affected by fewer laws than men. There's a higher quantity of male affecting laws than female affecting laws. And therefore, and the example he gave was, would you let a person who didn't like pizza order a pizza? And my answer was yes, if they took into consideration what kind of pizza I wanted, because I literally just did that with my own loved one, ordering her sushi when I don't like sushi. And I fucking nailed it. So anyway.
Yeah, I wasn't going to argue, but I'm trying to get the things that make this clear. I think Theo's full of shit as well. Lucky for Theo, there's going to be a lot more homeless people, so maybe he'll have more candidates.
Yeah, no kidding. I already know. I mean, Joel, you can expand on your question, but I already know my response to it. But Joel in Tennessee, you want to ask, why does the resistance need to start right now, and why can't we heal instead? Is that the crux of your question? Anything else you want to
add? Yeah. So like, I don't necessarily, I don't want to believe in the bipartisan But even though we have it, I do think I agree more with Trump's politics than Harris's. But instead of resistance, because that was the hallmark to me of I didn't want Trump to. I'm a conservative that didn't want Trump to win because I saw how much division was in my country for the 4 years of his presidency.
Sure. So Joel,
dislike.
I think I've got everything I need to answer your question. You're asking why we feel we need to resist instead of healing, and it's because
why can't we all find our middle ground? Because we have more in common.
Joel, I hear
there
you.
Isn't middle
I
ground
understand
on whether
the question.
people have rights.
The metaphor is this: bullets are flying, and they are hitting my women allies, my queer allies, my trans allies. And I'm not going to sit there and go, before I fight back, before I shoot back at the enemy, why don't we take a second and let the bullets that you currently have been hit by heal while more bullets are flying at us? Joel, human rights are not a middle ground issue. Nobody should have slept and gone, hey, with slavery.
What human rights are at stake. I apologize.
Great.
Trans people are not going to be. Okay, never mind. I don't give a fuck. I said I wouldn't argue.
Because I don't have a problem with those people.
Stop talking.
Those are my friends.
Stop talking. When you say you don't know what rights are under risk, I'm trying to tell you. I'm not trying to argue. I'm just trying to tell you that the rights that are under risk are the rights for trans people to live according to their gender identity and to serve in the military openly and to have equal rights. That's one of it. That's one set of rights.
Yeah, Joel, at the end of the day, you're saying you like all those people. You like women, you like queer people, and then you said you had queer friends. But then you also sat and said you don't know what rights are threatened, which means you haven't paid much to Agenda 47 and Project 2025. So I'm afraid to tell you, Joel, you don't actually have queer friends. You know queer people. You don't actually know. You don't have women who are friends. You know women.
To a lesbian wedding.
Because great, and they're not your friends. You know them because you voted against harming them. Because Project 2025, which 140 people from Trump's previous administration, and now the people who ran his PACs to get him elected, like Turning Point USA, have all come out and said, by the way, it is Project 2025. That is what we're doing. And Project 2025, that lesbian wedding, that lesbian wedding that you are referring to will be annulled by Project 2025. Joel, the idea that you think it's a joke when the current vice president-elect wrote the foreword for the book and the Heritage Foundation, which is behind Project 2025, picked at least 2 of the last 3 Supreme Court justices, that the idea that you think Project 2025 has no shot, even though the Supreme Court themselves have actually signaled, by the way, you can bring us back queer marriage and we can take another look at it, just like we did Roe v. Wade, that you sat there and go, I have all of these friends I care about, but I didn't bother when I heard, this is not the first time you have heard that their rights are in jeopardy. You just trusted, I guess, Trump, that they weren't. You don't have friends. You know those people.
It didn't happen before. Why would it happen now? I'm not trying to argue.
I'm glad you asked that, Joel. No, Joel, that's
agree.
okay. Thank you for the question, and I will answer it because he didn't expect, Joel.
Shut up!
There wasn't a Project 2016. There wasn't a Project 2017. There wasn't a plan for Donald Trump to win. Trump didn't believe he was going to win. The reason why it didn't happen last time is twofold. 1, he didn't have a plan. And 2, he did not have the infrastructure of the Supreme Court and tons of federal justices to be able to move the things up to the Supreme Court and then get it overturned. It took foundational changes, which they have achieved. And now there are no adults in the room to slow him down. 40 of his 44 last cabinet members actually came out against him.
Shut your fucking pie hole right now. Stop interrupting. Jimmy's explaining. I'm trying not to fucking do debate shit, but if you interrupt one more fucking time, I will mute you and make you sit on hold for the rest of the fucking show.
I also just don't know what that red herring was. I've lost my train of thought. What was that stupid thing you just said, that the Supreme Court controlled the popular vote? Joel, what was that question?
Sorry, I wasn't. Yes, it was something akin to that. I'm trying to listen. It's just I don't understand how the Supreme Court. I understand. I didn't agree with what Trump did with the Supreme Court.
Great, you
yes,
voted for him to do it 2 more times.
It's just I can agree with your viewpoint. Or it's not that I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I can see your perspective. I can understand your perspective.
Great. By the way, Joel, go back and watch any political show. Go watch any political show of mine for the last 5 years. You know what's really annoying me and what is making me feel both arrogant and disgusted today is it turns out for the last 5 years, I have been really good at predicting what's going to happen next. Go back to my old Dear Mr. Atheist days and watch me in, what year would that have been? 2018 or 2019, call that Roe v. Wade was going to be overturned and read all the comments of people telling me I'm wrong because there's too much in the way for it. So Joel, you can say you respect my perspective, but guess what? My perspective keeps fucking happening like I'm a goddamn oracle. Last thoughts, Joel, and then we're going to move on.
No, I agree with you on that. I actually thought it was going to happen as well. I agreed with your opinions on it. I'm like I said, I'm not trying to be confrontational. Why can't we focus on coming together instead of? Yeah, I understand, but we're better together, and we have more in common than we don't.
We're not together,
not
Joel.
if we don't have rights in common.
Joel, if we can't agree on what rights people should have, we're not together. There's no way to heal if one side is saying you don't have the right to bodily autonomy. You don't have the right to choose your own whether or not you're going to remain pregnant. You don't have the right to serve in the military. You don't have the right to identify the way you want. If one side is saying that, we're not together. There can be no healing if people are being denied their basic human rights. And there can be no healing if people are electing a 34-time felon traitor who tried to stage an insurrection and get his vice president killed to be new dictator where the Supreme Court has granted immunity for all official acts. We're not on the same page. We cannot heal while you are still punching us in the fucking dick.
Facts. All right, that's all we got for you, Joel.
Word. Y'all have a great evening.
I like word.
Go fuck yourself.
See ya. I tried to bridge the gap by saying
you
word also.
That. That's fine.
I don't care much for. It's funny because we've had comments and I've replied to some of them, but it's been a lot of people. Guys, I really don't care if people say shitty things about me in the chat. What is it? Jimmy has no friends. Okay. I promise you, you're jealous of the friends I do have. I promise you that there are people who told me they loved me today who you would fucking crawl over glass to sniff the chair they last sat in. But I don't give a fuck. Go ahead. I don't care what you believe.
But you shouldn't do that because I love Jimmy. Jimmy's my friend. And if you just come and sniff my chair, that's just going to be weird. It's funny because somebody in chat was like, Matt's attitude is the reason Trump got elected. If my attitude is the reason Trump got elected, you guys are fucking stupider than I thought. Nobody with any fucking reasonable thought thinks that when I yell at someone for being a douche, that got Trump elected.
You're also way overestimating the reach of our channel. But the fact is, I actually had a pretty good back and forth with one person who left a comment like that. And I was like, look, here's what we have. We have hundreds of emails a month of people saying basically like, hey, I've basically come around to y'all's side and we really appreciate how you have helped us flesh out our arguments or affirmed it. And by the way, we also get a sense of catharsis when you fight with these people who are wanting to fucking mess us up. And then we get people who were like, you were so fucking rude to me. I'm even more excited to vote for Trump than ever. But we get zero emails of people saying, I was a Harris voter and now I'm a Trump voter because of I saw your thing. Now that I put this out here and I've said this out loud, right, people will lie about it and you'll get comments, but we don't get comments or emails like that. Now, that isn't perfect data. That doesn't tell us what everything is, but that's what we have to work on. So then there are people who will leave a comment who are like, the way you behave is wrong, and this is why Trump won, because this is how you people are. Well, all the evidence I have right now is actually to the contrary. And you actually can't look and say, wow, Harris lost, therefore your way doesn't work, because for all you know, the popular vote at the very least may have been a few dozen, a few hundred, a few thousand, probably capped at a few thousand, but maybe more lower had somebody not interacted with our content at some point that put them on a path. You actually don't know whether or not. And so the information we have is quite contrary to what you're saying. But if you have data, and this is what the exchange I did with a commenter did, which was really funny because it was very polite. And then somebody went, wow, such hostility for valid criticism. Like a third party was like, what the fuck do you think hostility is? But I literally said to them, however, if you have a different way that is effective, I encourage you to start a platform and share it, and I will support it. Literally, I don't think Matt and or Forrest or anybody on this channel, and we all have different styles. I don't think anybody on this channel has the one style everyone should do. I even think that sometimes I was a little too influenced by some people, and I've finally locked into my own that's different. But I think it takes all of them. I think it takes all of these styles, and it takes Hemant Mehta and his Friendly Atheist brand style, and it takes Andrew Seidel, and it takes Mandisa Thomas. The way people do things, I think it takes a lot of different styles. And the idea that people are like, the way I would do it is this, so that's how you should change your channel. Go do it. And if you show me that it's something that it's something I even could do, because my personality just can't, if you all saw me on here pretending to be Forrest with Forrest style, it would read so inauthentic. I just couldn't
it's one of those things. I'd like for anybody to find a time where I just started yelling at somebody without any justification. Now, I will say, one of the things I'd like to see us change here at the line over the next year, even though I don't know exactly how it works, and Jimmy's going to tell me, yeah, I'd love to about the tech stuff. I hate call-in studio. I hate the massive delay. And I genuinely think that after years of doing this, where we just had phone lines where there's no delay, and then we tried to find other solutions, I think about 80% of the frustrating interactions on the network are due to the delay. I think that some people, they seem to be interrupting more than they intend to. And I think that's related to the delay. And I think because there's a delay, it's like, oh, hang on, I'm trying to answer your question. And then in a normal conversation, they would be like, okay. But because that's on a delay, hang on while I answer your question. And then I start talking. And that's when the okay comes in. I genuinely think that the delay on call-in studio is about 75 to 80% of the problem.
So the biggest thing is that I've tested it a bunch, and the conclusion I've come to is it's not the delay. It is that many sound systems, and I think Call-in Studio has their own on their side, plus we're doing multiple inputs in vMix. I actually think it is the automatic noise cancellation that does it. That when people start talking, there are times within their phone or the other phone that it actually silences the input coming in or reduces it and makes it quieter, and they think that is the window
that's
that
the problem.
Find to interrupt and stuff.
Yeah, the ducking and the full duplex, but cell phones are notoriously bad at full duplex. But genuinely, right now there's very little delay between me and Jimmy that I notice. But at other times, there's even a delay between the hosts, depending on what machine's going. Anyway, it's neither here nor there. I really wish, it's 2024. The call-in, we need a better call-in system.
And we have an alternative lining up. The problem is for every advantage that you get with another one, they're still in beta and they have things worked out. Every advantage you get in one, you lose something on another.
And at the end of the day,
I would like that too.
Lodging a complaint for Jimmy to do
I'd
more
like us
work,
all to move to Denver and just do it in a studio. I'd like to have that's the real ideal way.
The problem is, doesn't fix anything. Like, you could come over to the house right now and we still have the same delay with the phone system if we were in the same studio.
I think the internet delay that goes between, so vMix has to connect to Call-in Studio, and then Call-in Studio has to pipe it back. and we're using virtual audio drivers, I do think you probably would shave off like, I don't know, 20, 30% if you were doing a direct line to direct line. People were calling the number directly and it was hard. But we also accept IP calls, and that's new. That's also different from the old version of the
that's causing all kinds of new problems because people are using the IP thing on their fucking cell phone. You've got a cell phone.
Call the number.
You
from
can't
your
figure out how
phone,
to call. I mean, it's no longer, you're not going to get long distance charged anymore.
Sorry,
it's not
guys,
like you need to call us and go,
my phone.
hello, caller, what's your name? Look at the trees. That'll tell you there's a God as your name because you're worried about, call me back.
You have
we had a baby, it's a boy.
We've never had a collect call attempt on the line.
You have a collect call from we had a baby, it's a boy.
Yeah, I remember those commercials. You have a collect call from, oh man, it's too late to make Kent Hovind prison jokes, but I don't remember what the name of the facility he went to was. This is a collect call from the whatever correctional facility from Kent Hovind. All right, let's see. We'll go through these a little bit quick here. It's funny because I think we just addressed this, but Eric in California, I don't think we have anything to add, but you're asking what the most effective rhetorical strategy leading up to an election is. And I don't have anything better than the things that we're already doing, but clearly you have to now address that people's lifespans, their attention span is extremely short. You need to make it sexy and dramatic, and that is going to beat well-reasoned arguments every time, apparently.
Yeah. So, hello, guys.
Hi.
As I've been sitting here listening and just kind of contemplating what my question was, I think there are a lot of things that you guys have said that have been addressed about, like, certain ways I may have wanted to take the conversation. One thing I was really curious about, and I think I'd be curious to know what Matt's opinion is on this. But I watched you, Matt. I think I'm 36, and I've watched you. I think I saw your very first episode. I have family that lived in Texas and still does, and so I've seen, I think, your very first episode. Like, I've been watching you since I was in my mid-teens. And one thing that I always saw pop up on those shows was this conversation. It seemed to be at least once a month. There seemed to be a conversation about how to have the value of, like, having, like, an evangelical mindset and being just, like, super cocksure and super confident and just not allowing any room for doubt and debate and just being like, no, like, this is it. This is the way we need to be, and so I am curious how much you think a lot of I'm reminded I have a mug that's actually in front of me, and it has whether or not it's attributed to him or not, I'm not sure, but there's a quote from Bertrand Russell that's like, the whole problem with the world is that fools and fanatics are certain of themselves and wiser people full of doubt. And it's one of my favorite quotes. And I'm wondering how much
that the stupid are cocksure. The quote is that the stupid are cocksure and the wise are full of doubt.
Yeah. I think there was someone else who I think adopted it and changed it at some point as well. So maybe that's who I'm quoting. But so I'm curious how much of the honest conversation around Biden's presidency and Biden's, efficacy and Biden's future and all that kind of stuff contributed to a rhetorical strategy that made the left look less confident in their guy than the right is confident in their options. And this idea of, like,
but we weren't confident in that guy.
Right. And so if you would ask me my argument,
I think that Biden stepping down is one of the greatest things, if not the greatest thing, Biden ever did. Recognizing both the view of the party and the concerns and the stakes, stepping down and them ramping up really quickly and very thoroughly. A great campaign. Now, there's plenty of things to criticize both Biden and Harris for, and that's not what I'm saying. But I wasn't sure he should step down, and I wasn't sure what the ramifications were. I have zero complaints about stepping down. I have zero complaints about swapping and putting Kamala in running the race. How much that impacted other people, I don't know, because we've been in a weird spot where we've been taking calls from Trump supporters and we've been taking calls from people who are no voting and people who are protest voting. And no matter how many times we explained all the various reasons why, there was a sincere and thorough propaganda campaign to get people on the left to not vote or throw their vote away. And they used Gaza to do it. And Gaza will now be worse off and Ukraine will now be worse off, as will all Americans on a number of fronts. So they managed to con a significant portion of well-intentioned left-leaning people to basically throw their vote away. I don't know that I don't know that there's any downside at all to Biden stepping down at this point. But we don't have a time machine and we don't get to rewind. And quite frankly, I saw some statements from Biden after he stepped out of the election that made me question his competence even more. Like, I was already a little dubious, but it's like, he's 80 something. Yeah, he's going to get some stuff wrong, but he's still incredibly experienced and has lots of connections and has, cabinet and policies that I support. But now, like, the next really good thing that Biden could do in fantasy land is stuff that he can't actually do. Like, he can't unilaterally, as a lame duck, go through and blow up the Supreme Court and things like that. I mean, expand it, not blow it up. That's the wrong phrasing. Expand, stack the court. But I don't have any reason to think that switching to Harris cost us anything on behalf of Biden stepping down. I think where switching to Harris cost us something is there's bigotry and confusion that nobody could have properly predicted. Well, I guess I say nobody. Jimmy did, but he didn't necessarily know that he was predicting bigotry. He just knew where it was going to go.
It was in there. It was in there.
And
that's the one thing I count on
more than anything. I guess what I would refer to more than anything is I do think that there was a lot of left leaning. Like, I watch a lot of like Daily Show, and I watch a lot of there's a lot like Sam Cedar and TYT, and TYT is its own little problematic thing. I'm still waiting for Anna to apologize for her bullshit a few months ago. But
are you kidding me? Anna's nearly a Trump supporter.
Right.
Getting there.
Right. And yeah, well, and so that's kind of what
I had it out with Anna. I had it out with Anna on Twitter over a decade ago when she said some absolutely stupid bullshit about atheists, and her and Jink can suck it.
Sure. And I guess what I'm kind of getting at, and it's not even just them, like there's just a whole of the mainstream media that I would have always pegged as being more left leaning, just having this total like this equivocation, like for example, if you had asked me, and granted, I can admit in retrospect I would have been lying, but if you had asked me a few months ago, what do I think of Biden? What do I think of Biden presidency? I would have just been like, it's fucking great. There's a whole lot of good that he's doing. And I would start listing off the good, and I would start listing off the things and I would minimize to a certain extent the areas that I think he could be worse. And if I did want to talk about another candidate, I would just be like, yeah, and what's even great about the Democratic bench is we have even more great people. And if Harris stepped in, sure, that would be even better because she's just as good as Biden. And you know what I mean? But that's not what.
Let's pull this to a pointer question, though, because I do want to be succinct. I want to wrap soon. Go ahead, and if you can pull that into a.
Yeah. So how much do you think the people who would be considered left-leaning are responsible, I guess, for focusing too much on the kind of like the centrism or like the equivocation between the bad stuff in the Democratic Party and the good stuff in the Democratic Party compared to the Republicans just absolutely never pointing out anything negative in their party. And if someone does, then they're just outed immediately and they have like this very like unified front. Like, how much do you think
so the question is, should we be a cult since they're a cult?
Yeah. And my quick answer, at first I was like, I don't necessarily understand the question. Then when I saw where you were going, my answer, sorry, Eric, is I don't give a fuck. I'm going to tell the truth and I'm going to call things out. If you value lockstep uniformity for its effectiveness, then you've already given up to fascism. Not you
Yep.
specifically, but yeah, true for anybody.
You specifically,
Yeah,
Eric. No, I'm just
it's
kidding. All right, Eric. We're gonna leave it there.
Yeah, thanks. No, yeah, I appreciate
you.
it. Just something I've been thinking a lot about. Appreciate it, guys. Have a good night.
For sure. Thanks, Eric.
Yep. Take care.
We're gonna make it fast.
Wait,
We're not gonna get.
there's somebody in
Go
chat
ahead.
that wants me to yell at them. I'm happy to. Let me see.
Pay for it. You have to pay for it. Super chat it if you want it. This ain't free, you little kinky freak.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry there, Yogi Boomer. I'm not going to engage your fetish unless you pay me.
Pay him.
Welcome to my new
Tim in
OnlyFans.
Minnesota. Be very, very, very succinct. We will hear it out. We won't argue. You can go ahead and share. You want to share why you voted for Trump? Just give us short three points. Itemized 1, 2, 3. Let's just leave it at that.
Or one. We don't want to make you work harder if you don't want to.
That's true.
Well, yeah. So, I can do 3. The first one would be the COVID response. I feel like people haven't forgotten the COVID response, and I feel like it was way too heavy-handed on the Democratic side. For me
Okay, great.
personally,
What's number 2?
reality. Oh, sorry. Okay,
Number 2. What's number 2?
Number 2 was the Democratic Party used to be the party of free speech, where they would literally support the rights of any and all opinions to be expressed, and they kind of let
Great.
the Republicans and Elon. All right, go ahead.
Okay, number 3.
And then point number 3 would just be the economic reality that I and many people I know does not match what we were hearing from the Biden administration, and it almost felt like we were being gaslit.
That's fine,
Cool,
Tim.
thanks.
So, Tim,
Bye.
here's what I'm going to tell you. We're going to be doing political debate shows soon. If you feel like you can defend those, call in, because I specifically disagree with you on all 3 of them, that those are all better. And I will give you completely why if you want to debate. But tonight, like I said, we would just give people a minute to say, this is what the perception was. All I wanted to hear was why you, an atheist, would do so. And your perception when you voted yesterday were that those 3 things were true. And that's all I needed to get out of you for the moment. But call for the debate one. Go ahead,
question,
Matt.
and before I get off.
No,
I think Matt wants to ask you a
Do you mind if I
question.
ask one question? Oh, sorry.
What was that, Matt?
Yeah,
I was just going to say,
oh, sorry.
Let Matt go.
no, I don't give a fuck. Fuck the delay. I was just going to say thanks for your honesty. Bye.
Yeah. Go ahead,
Okay.
Tim. What was your
Can I
one
ask
question?
Yeah.
What is it?
So yeah, I am an African American male, and most of the African American males in my friend group either abstained or switched to Trump. So I was just wondering if that was something that you think is a cause for concern.
Racism and sexism
and
still?
why do you guys think that is?
Yeah, we'll talk about it on a
what was that?
longer show, but I will tell you that I think racism and sexism is the main reason why the black male vote changed. All right, Tim, we can talk about it in the future though.
Okay, the delay is bad, but you guys take care. All right.
Okay. I'm going to test it. Dave seems like a nice guy. Hey, Dave. Dave, you're on the line. Can you hear me? Okay.
Oh my God. I didn't think I was going to make it. You guys,
Yeah.
I actually had to beg the this call screener to let me on because of
Sure.
Thea's priority.
Dave, I want to test something with you real quick though. Hey, Dave,
Yeah, go
hang on. I'm going to test something with you. I'm going to count to 5. When I say the word 5, I want you at the same time to just say the word now. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Now.
Well, that was
2
2.5 seconds. That was pretty bad. All
I'm
right.
telling you.
Okay, you were testing the delay. I am happy to be your guinea pig. I was almost
Thanks.
afraid that you were going to be like, "Oh, fuck this guy. He's a troll
Hang up.
caller. I'm going to hang up on his ass."
but
This
that's-
was Jimmy's way of
but
hanging up.
But that's part of it is I counted 2 seconds and Jimmy counted 2.5 seconds. Count to 5 again with me, Jimmy. I'm going to look away and I will say now when you say 5 and you tell me what because this will measure the delay between me and Jimmy.
Yeah.
So once again.
I love it.
Yeah,
I
here we
love it.
go.
I'm done. I'm on it. I'm with you guys.
No, Dave,
you're
you'll stay
not.
quiet for this
Stop
one.
talking.
You stay
Oh.
quiet for this one, Dave.
I
Give
shut
us
up.
a second.
I
Yeah.
shut up. I
Yeah,
shut
yeah.
up.
Thank you.
You don't have to say I
okay.
shut up 3 times. You just have to shut up.
Okay, it's gonna go on forever. All right, I'm gonna do it. Matt's gonna say it. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5.
That was less than 2 seconds. That was probably like a second and a half.
But I said it exactly when you said it, exactly when it entered my ear, and I was actually just slightly ahead of you. But that shows a delay between me and you. Now, if there's also, I think, a different delay between me and the caller. And so, we'll do more experimenting. Anyway, Dave, thanks for letting us experiment.
Dave, I say let's fucking do it, because who cares what people, I don't care. Sure, did we beat a viewership record today? We're at over 4,000 viewers. Yeah. Now, guess what, viewers? Over 4,000 of you are going to watch Matt count to 5, and Dave is going to say now when he hears Matt count to 5.
By the way,
I'm on it.
This is not a countdown to somebody getting off, so don't use it that way.
Oh, my God.
You ready?
Oh God,
here we go, Dave.
You're edging me, Matt.
Here we go, Dave. I'm going to count to 5, and you just say 5 when exactly when I say 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5.
That was 2 seconds here.
That was about 2, yeah. This is why I say 2 seconds is not a fun delay. But I don't know how to get it much faster than 2 seconds. If you and I have 2 seconds between us, now one thing we could test, it would be very expensive to do it, but we could test what a P2P connection with everybody running vMix would do and see if that increases the speed, but that would only increase us much more than it would increase the call system. Anyway, the whole idea. Thank you to the 4,200 of you who are here, by the way. Do hit subscribe. We are going to be getting more political. We're going to be talking about the future. We're going to be talking about the plan. The next 4 years are going to suck, but together, it will suck together. Anyway, Dave, go ahead and give us your question for Harris, I assume.
No, I was talking about a different race. Never mind, ignore me.
Oh,
go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
I want to start off by saying, Jimmy, you need to shuck the foot up, and I will keep saying that in the comments every time I watch you until I receive my T-shirt.
Sure. I do want to remind you, though, I know we just did the whole countdown thing. We do want to get a little succinct here, so if we can make it quick, if you need more time, especially it looks like you have a trans-related question, the Transatlantic Call-In Show is tomorrow. Definitely call in for that one. But otherwise, we're just going to kind of question answer and go from there. Let me look on the Discord. I think I recall it being Arden and Luxander, maybe, but I'll double check.
Not sure that's actually going to work.
Yes,
Go ahead.
I will try to be as
succinct
as I possibly can. I do want to say that Matt owes me a chess game. I paid $10 for it last night, but we didn't play.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
And
go ahead.
also,
I'm playing right now. You can hit me up later.
I'm also absolutely. I'm also in your DMs about the Bell Complex babies. That was me too.
I'll give Matt I'll refund your $10 if you'll just get to your question.
I'm sorry. Well, I love you guys too much.
I'm trying to figure out DMs where.
One of the things in Facebook.
Google,
I
shut
sent
the
you a
fuck
Facebook
up.
message.
Not you, Dave. Google. It was Google. All right, go ahead.
I know.
He sent you a Facebook message. Now, Dave, your question is go.
Yes, thank you. So I've been dealing with a huge ton of shit in my own community because I am a trans parent. Literally, I was listening to you guys when Trump was called, and I had people around my house shooting off fireworks outside of my yard, calling me the F word because I am the local trans parent. I have a trans child. So I just wanted to throw that out there for the person who was saying that this is not affecting people already. It is. It is already affecting people. Hate crime is legal now. That's what these people are on. But my actual question that I've been waiting for hours for was, I've been trying to deal with my mother, who is Mormon, and she has this internalized misogyny. She even like I was having a conversation with her, and she said that she wasn't voting for Harris because she slept her way to the top. And I've been trying for the last few months to open her eyes about the actual harm that these views have, and I don't know how to approach her now in the future because I need to preserve my relationship with her. I can't cut her off entirely because let's just say for estate reasons, other family members at stake if I were to cut ties entirely. And
so Dave, I think I've got the gist of your question and enough.
Okay, go ahead.
Enough to actually answer. If you feel like there isn't more context you need after, go ahead and throw it. But I have bad news.
One more bit of context.
If you make it very succinct, because you haven't been succinct for a moment of this call, Dave. But if you make it very succinct, go ahead.
It's been a rough day. I apologize.
Okay, go ahead.
The biggest thing I'm struggling with is that she still does not accept my late sister's gender. My sister died during COVID, and when I have conversations with her, with my mother, she still uses he/him pronouns to refer to my sister. And
sure.
It was a huge thing between us with the funeral, and it's like there's just so many things. Dave, like I said, I can't cut ties, but I don't know how to approach her.
If you can't cut ties, and that's for what you said were estate, so we'll just say financial reasons, right? But if you feel like somebody's survival is based on that estate is too important, then the sad news is I'm not gonna say probably, you maybe can't break through, and you're basically going to have to say what's more important: the mental and emotional harm I receive, or maintaining that inheritance or whatever it's going to be, and decide on that. And it's this weird thing that people do where they call this show and ask Matt and I think this applies to everybody else, but how do I change my parents into being non-believers or better people? And neither of us have done that. We're waiting for someone to tell us how to do it. But at the end of the day, the advice we give is if you are financially dependent on somebody, if you're dependent to survive, lie. We'll do whatever you have to do to continue to survive. And if you're saying the importance of this money is such that you can't cut her off, if you don't have the option to cut her off, that means you also don't have the option to put up boundaries, then you have to decide which one's more important.
Also, there are no Facebook messages from you.
Oh, sorry. I will add to that. It is not about money. It is about my brother, who is not capable legally of taking care of himself. So I have to stick around because until she passes, I'm going to be, or when she passes, I will be his legal guardian. I cannot cut ties because that would be leaving my brother in the dust.
I hope you still listen to my answer, even though you wanted to add that, because it's the same answer.
I did. I did listen to your answer. I just wanted to let you know it wasn't about money.
Yeah. Let Matt go now.
What's the reason you don't take custody of your brother now and cut your mom off?
I can't. I do not have the legal means to do so. He is an adult and he is too deep in the cult. He would have to make the choice to do it early.
So when your mom dies and you're now the custodian for your brother, how has he helped?
Mm-hmm.
If he's just deep in the cult too?
I don't go to church. So he's going to have a lifestyle.
How does you not going to church help your brother?
I haven't figured all that out. Yet, to be honest.
Okay. There's also no direct message from you in Facebook Messenger.
Well, I thought I did it at the Matt Dillahunty Facebook.
You might be on not my actual account, but some other one, but there's no message request.
Entirely possible because fuck the algorithm.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, Dave, honestly, the answer is still what I gave it to you. I get it. You have a familial attachment. You want to be there for your brother. And if you feel like if there's a chance you could help him after she's left, then sure. And I hear it. And so the answer is, I don't have the magic way. Maybe you'll find it, but I don't have the way to tell you how to deal with her in a way that changes her. At best, I can tell you, like, go to a therapist and talk to them about just how do you have good, positive relationships and conversations with people. Yeah, they are great at conversation guidance and asking, what type of language can I use to diffuse situations? What kind of language can I use to ask for a boundary in a way that they're not going to feel attacked by? But beyond that, I got nothing, man. As far as like changing her mind, you just gotta, you gotta go. You gotta decide what's most important, what boundaries you're willing to enforce or not enforce.
I appreciate that. And before I waste more of your time, as far as the Facebook message, the message that I sent to you, it's got a picture of you and Arden on your cover. It's got, I got the COVID-19 vaccine. We can do this on your face. I sent a message to that.
Try sending
I'm telling you, there's no message and no message request. Send me an email.
I believe you. I blame Facebook. Not you.
Send him an email. All right, Dave. Thank you.
What would be the email address? What would be the email
one
address?
I gave you yesterday. sans.deity@gmail.com. Just like I told you yesterday.
I'm a TBI victim. I apologize. I'm a TBI victim. I don't have great retention.
It's all good. It's all good. All right. Sans.deity@gmail.
Please repeat the email.
sans.deity@gmail.com. You'll find it. I think it's in the description too. At gmail.com. Yeah, Dave. It's all good. It's all good. sans.deity@gmail.com. Replay the show or find it in the description. But it was nice talking to you, Dave. All right.
sans.deity.
Cool. Thanks, Dave.
For being a burden. Thank you.
No, not a burden.
It's not a burden.
We're just trying to be succinct tonight. You just picked the wrong night to not be succinct. It's all good. It's all good.
And the fucking delay is driving me absolutely fucking bonkers. sans.deity@gmail.com. And now it'll be out there for everybody. It already was, so I don't care.
Yep. I'll send everybody a picture of my foot to then email to Matt. Let's just give him tons of pictures of my foot in his email. I'm not really doing that, you weirdos.
So frustrating. I completely forgot what I was getting ready to say.
We already said we weren't going to necessarily read all super chats, but several people sent large super chats. So why don't we go ahead and we'll hit any that were over $20. Morgan, is that easy enough for you to track? Cool. Let's go ahead and hit the ones over 20. Drum roll, please.
Oh wow, we are a complete black screen when we go to super chats there, but that's all right. Nobody needs to see me.
Is input 5 or 6 not set up right? Morgan? Yeah, no worries. We don't have a Morgan produce Cause I Wanna very often, so he may have had an outdated Cause I Wanna. All right, I'll remote in. Go ahead and say what you're going to say, Matt, while I remote into
I don't
be ready for a request.
Genuinely, there was a response to somebody in chat saying something, and I was going to address it for fun, but I don't fucking know.
Okay. Oh yeah, no, it's here. It's just this one. Input 4. I'll merge that, take off our banner. I'll take it from here, actually. Well, I guess I can't take it from here because I can't see your vMix social because that's on the other screen. So you're good. I'll disconnect. You got it. Oh, I got you. Well, it looks like it's good now. This was from earlier, $199.99 from Zach K, who said refund every pro. We addressed this, but refund every pro Trump super chat if you could do that. Unfortunately, we couldn't.
$100 from Mr. Snoots. What can we do other than remain principled and vigilant in the coming months and years? These anti-intellectual bigots are going to steamroll our rights, so we need to fight complacency and fight those rights however we can while we still can. So being principled and vigilant is part of it. Genuinely, I think some of what needs to happen is to get people who aren't engaged in the political process, hopefully, to start caring a little bit more. But also, we need to clean up the disinformation, because as it stands right now, people are making decisions based on bad information and bad takes on information if they actually care about information. So, for example, when I think it was Dave that called in, or maybe not, whoever it was, Tim, I think it was, he's like, oh, the Democrats' COVID response was heavy-handed. Okay, well, Trump was president. But yeah, that seems a little anti-science. And then the Dems used to be for free speech, but they let Republicans and Elon, and I don't know what was going to sit there. Elon Musk is not a champion of free speech.
No.
Not the slightest bit. Elon Musk owns speech. And that's why there are things that you can't say on Twitter, and why the signal to noise ratio is so incredibly low on Twitter. If you're not posting porn or pro-Trump stuff, the likelihood that your message is going to get out to people is slimmer. See, the Russian disinformation machine doesn't need to convince people to say things and pay them to say things. They just pay the people who are already saying the things that they once said, and they boost the signal on those. And then when they make decision about the economic reality, which was his third point, the economy's better. It just is. And what's happening is they're like, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Have you seen the price of eggs? When in reality, yes. While individuals, and I already did the climate weather thing, while individuals may not be better off, society as a whole is better off, and the United States is recovering faster than any other developed nation. And your dollar's spending power in 2024 is greater than it was in 2020. And the stock market is greater than it was in 2020. And under Trump, it's the billionaires that are going to get tax breaks, and poor people's taxes are going to go up, and middle class taxes are going to go up. Everything about this plan, the economists say Trump's plan is worse. The economists say that Kamala's plan was better. If you're caring about voting for the economy, then you cannot just go off of what your biased perception is based on the current state of your bank account or what you're actually spending, because that's not the economy, that's your finances. And your finances are the result of a complex set of things, including what the economy is and how much we're recovering and how much you personally have recovered. It may be the case that you personally haven't recovered at all since the pandemic, but that doesn't tell you what the economy is doing. And so, as always, the Republicans are going to get in. They're going to blow up the deficit. They're going to fuck up the economy. And then somebody's going to say, are you better off than you were 20 or 4 years ago? But this notion of, ooh, free speech, free speech, free speech. Elon Musk banned Trump from Twitter so hard that he created Truth Social, and now they're blowing each other on stage. Why? Not for free speech. Because they're billionaires. They are immoral money hoarders, and they are there to enable and embolden other immoral money hoarders like Jeff Bezos, who kept the Washington Post from actually endorsing Kamala Harris because he could read the tea leaves the same way Jimmy did and suspected that Trump was going to get elected and knew there would be consequences. So congratulations, while the government isn't officially a plutocracy, the practical implication is that where it really matters, where the application of speech, not free speech, because impositions on free speech are a government action, not a Twitter action. Twitter's not violating your free speech. Even if they ban you, you don't have a right to be there. But in that colloquial sense of being a part of the conversation, Whether or not you're a part of the conversation that anybody can see is now determined by billionaires. It has nothing to, government censorship's a completely different thing. And the government, so which is why when he talks about the Democrats doing this, the Democrats haven't done anything to squelch free speech. The Republicans and Project 2025 are actively seeking to not only control colloquial speech and who gets to hear what, but to control actual free speech, because they are going to strike words from laws. You will not be allowed to discuss gender or gender identity. These are things that they're going to be scrubbing. As the government, they are going to inhibit scientists and teachers from freely speaking about scientific facts because they've used trans people as a boogie person.
Yeah.
When nobody gives a shit.
Yeah. The only note I have is the ironic thing with Bezos is I don't actually think he did necessarily see it coming. I think that when he did the calculus, he went, if I don't endorse and if I stop this, that is a positive for if Trump wins. And if Harris wins, Harris isn't going to seek retribution. Like if Harris wins, billionaires loved Harris. And so it's like, I can count on the Democrats to not attack me if I do this. But if I do stop this and Trump finds out, he will potentially reward me and not seek retribution. So for him, it was like, even if he doesn't know, there was no risk. There was only upside for him. And you know, whatever, these fucking shitbags. Next one. Nathan Poljak says, my finances have been in shambles and my best friend, who is a woman, is terrified. I won't be laying down and we'll be volunteering somehow to combat this. Keep fighting. Love you all and what you do. Fuck Nazis and fuck Trump. Good enough. Totally agree. On to the next. I can hit it too. Australian.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you do it, yeah. 100 Australian from Manu D says, unfortunately, Australia, the narratives in our politics are similar to yours. We saw a rejection of the transphobic talking points on our last election, but Murdoch sure tried. Unfortunately, time is on their side. Today, all I will do is send love and thanks. Yeah, unfortunately, I was thinking about that. It seems to be that we do something and then y'all follow suit. Europe and Australia and Canada will have some version of it too. And it's very unfortunate. And it looked like we were going to be at the end of people rejecting, but it turns out we were at the beginning of a new cycle. Anyway, next one. Herbie Shine says, it's been a gray and miserable day in the UK today. It seems appropriate for this dreadful day. I'm so sorry for the US and scared for you and for the world further afield. I'm horrified by the election and the hatred and on display from Trump and co.
Yep.
Very much agree.
I'm stunned. And my first post that I made, I almost didn't post anything after the election. But the first post I made on social media just said, the world does not make sense. And then it says, I stared at that sentence for 10 minutes trying to think of something else to add. That's the entirety of my post, and every single word of it is true. I literally sat there with my phone in my hands 18 hours ago, typed "the world does not make sense," and was like, what else should I say? And managed to get nowhere. And then this morning I shared something productive, which was get your passport renewed before January 20th. Who knows what the hell's going to happen? I don't need to go down the conspiracy theorist doomsayer road to suggest that particularly for queer people, particularly for trans people, get your passport renewed. If you need to escape, you're going to need that. And so that's my one bit of good advice, because if nothing exceptionally bad happens and you don't need it, well, it's better to have a passport and to have one and ready if you don't need it than it is to need it and not have it. There we go. There's the phrase that took me an hour to sort out.
I got over 100 likes on just the word fuck after the election last night.
Somebody in chat asked if has the fact that Trump has now been elected twice affect the pride, if any, for serving in the Navy? No. I don't have all that much pride. Despite the fact that I'm a veteran of a foreign war, my time in the Navy, all 8.5 years of it, was pretty easy for the most part. And I don't feel that I did anything particularly laudable or special. But nothing that I am definitely ashamed on behalf of our nation, but I'm not ashamed for my service, no matter how many people call me a bastard for it. Oh, is this me?
I think so, yeah.
It should be, yeah. $50 for I Love Tofu. I've never cried over an election. Thank you guys for being a voice of reason. I predict lots of Trumpers will be shocked when the stability of our country and the world is dissolved. We'll be saying, I told you so. Why didn't you fucking listen? I think, honestly, well, a lot of the adults, by the way, a lot of the adults have already told us, like his former national security advisors and chiefs of staff and all this have told us this is a dangerous narcissist who sucks up to dictators and wants to turn the military on our own citizens. Literally asked why he couldn't send the military out to shoot protesters in the leg. Dangerous fascist. These adults that were in the room and let him do some stuff, but hopefully curbed some other stuff he wanted to do before, they're not going to be in the room this time. He's been elected with a mandate. He's already fired the people who could possibly rein him in. The Supreme Court has granted him immunity from prosecution for any action. Now, he can't just go out tomorrow and declare elections are through. We will no longer have elections. I am emperor forever. He can't just do that as things stand. But here's what can happen. And believe you me, I'm not a political expert or even a political operative, but I can tell you this, with the president, the Senate, and possibly the House, as well as the Supreme Court, do you think gerrymandering of districts is going to increase or decrease? It will increase. Do you think election restrictions and voter registration laws are going to increase or decrease? They're going to increase. These people with that power, step one is to do everything they can do to make sure that Democrats don't get elected. If they can make sure that that we still have elections, but the opposition just doesn't get elected, they will have created the illusion of a free society while being an absolute fascist dictatorial system. It will be a fascist dictatorship and everything but official name only. We have a kangaroo Supreme Court. We will be in a bullshit nation.
You were going to say kangaroo nation, but you realized that would be Australia. I saw it.
Actually, I didn't realize it'd be Australia. I just realized that was the wrong thing. There is a word I was looking for that's not third world country. That's not shithole country. It's somebody in chat will come up with it, but
Banana Republic.
Yes, a banana republic. But basically, we'd be a sham. So as it stands right now, the country's a hot fucking mess. But we still had an election yesterday, and the voting did impact the results. And the fact that tens of millions of people didn't bother to show up who showed up last time, and the fact that that's still 100 million people fewer than were eligible to vote. I'm just guessing. I haven't looked at the numbers at all, but the election happened, and the people got what they voted for. You know, it's a weird situation to wake up and say, "Yeah, oh, all of you said voting doesn't matter," and yet that's exactly how we got here. Trump won the popular vote. Trump is winning the electoral vote. Voting's what got us here. And so all those people who said voting doesn't matter, do you think that our oligarch overlords or our evil Bilderberger president pictures just manipulated all the votes and had millions of people just to manage to convince them to not show up? Well, in a way, yes. In a way, some of the turnout is well-intentioned idealism applied incredibly stupidly. Ooh, I don't want to vote for genocide. Congratulations, but thank you for pretending that the rest of us voted for genocide or wanted to vote for genocide, when in reality, we made the best decision for the nation and what turned out to be the best decision for Gaza, as far as we're able to tell by what was actually being said. There was no path to standing up and shutting down Netanyahu. There was not a single vote that had any viable chance to completely shut down what Netanyahu is doing there. And Netanyahu, by the way, just the other day, on Friday, I think it was, fired his defense minister, the one person, the highest ranking person in his cabinet, who was telling him it's time for diplomacy, not more military action. And so he fired him. Why? Well, he certainly didn't fire him because he was more interested in diplomacy, did he? If you're more interested in diplomacy and your defense minister is saying, hey, we need more diplomacy, you don't fire that defense minister. That's the one you keep. But if you want more military action and your defense minister is like, sir, I think we need diplomacy, you can fire him. And you'd be like Nixon going through attorneys general until he can find one that'll fucking sue the people that he wants to sue. And that's exactly what Trump's going to do. There's going to be nobody there to check him. So we have from right now until January 20th to do a bunch of things. The first thing we need to do is make preparatory plans to keep the people safe who are going to be at the greatest risk. For me, in my family, that's Arden. For me, in my family, that's my niece. In the world at large, I hope genuinely we stop using trans folks as a boogeyman. The data show that neither conservatives nor liberals, Republicans nor Democrats, really give that much of a fuck about the trans issue. But boy, it's an effective, let's throw it up there and see if we can get a boogie them, which somebody came up with in my Twitch chat earlier, which I like, a boogie them to throw out.
No, they did not. They stole that from me
distraction.
and then put it in your Twitch chat. That was my joke from forever ago.
How
Boogie
the
them
fuck
and
am I
boogie
supposed to
person.
know whether somebody stole a joke from you when you're not even
You're
in my Twitch
supposed
chat?
to know my lore.
You don't get any credit. You don't get any credit for what happens in my Twitch chat unless you're there. So somebody in
You
Twitch
watch
chat came up with
everything
boogie
I
them.
do.
I've never seen a single show that you've done.
This guy runs my fan club.
Jimmy sniffs my chair every time I get up. Okay.
Oh, God.
So, in any case, we need to make sure that we're doing what we can to protect the people who are at biggest risk. And then we need, and that includes getting your passports renewed, making a list of things that you're likely to forget and other things related to your housing situation, finding networks of people. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that on January 21st, we're going to slip into a civil war and the whole thing's going to collapse. No, because that doesn't suit them. The notion that the doomsayers are like, oh, hey, let's, we need to elect Kamala because if not, civilization is going to collapse. No, that's not accurate. If civilization collapses, nobody benefits. But if democracy collapses, the people in power benefit. And there comes a point where once democracy has failed and the people in power have benefited enough, there is no course of action other than revolution and violent revolution. And while I'm not a pacifist, I'd rather not be violent with anyone ever. Yelling is the extent of my violence. But at the end of the day, the resistance begins now is the title that Jimmy put on this. And what we're advocating there is not, hey, let's start a violent revolution. It is, we're beginning again. Just as we did in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, etc. It is, there has to be a new plan and there has to be changes. And I know that there's people, the people who third party voted are like, maybe the Democrats will start listening to me. No, they won't. No, they won't. The Democrats are not the Green Party. You're never going to win by trying to get the Democrats to be the Green Party. It's never going to happen. And you're not going to get the bulk of people supporting Democrats to go be a part of the Green Party, especially considering how much you just fucked us over with that. And again in 2016. Yeah. We can still have great ideas. Green Party has some, libertarians have some, a lot of independents have great ideas, and some of those ideas are way better than what's part of any of the major Republican Democrat parties. There are things that I might agree with some Republicans on. There are plenty of things I agree with Democrats on. There's lots of things I agree with Green and Libertarian on. If you keep looking for, well, my preferred candidate didn't get elected, therefore, this is the Bernie or bust stuff. We have to do better than that. And I get it. That means the Democrats have to do better as well. And as we said, the general election is not the time for a protest vote. All that time leading up to it is the time for protest vote. So if you are advocating for the Green Party or advocating for the Libertarian Party, it's time to get serious. And it's time to say, I'm not going to wait till 2 months before the biggest general election in the world. I'm going to start tomorrow by going out and supporting Green Party candidates in local elections where they can get in there and make a change to where we can show that the ideas of this party are useful. Because right now, it's a scam. It's a grift. Jill Stein is a grifter who hangs around so that she can run year after year, except for 2020, in order to keep the dream alive and to keep otherwise reasonable people who would oppose a fascist, conservative, Christian nationalist regime, keep them divided. If we work together now, we can build towards something possibly better, or at least not as bad, in 4 years. But I saw first thing this morning, this is what happens when you vote lesser of two evils. No, it's not. Voting for the lesser of two evils is by definition voting for the better option. This is what happens when people don't show up to vote. This is what happens when people become convinced of an ideal that they throw their vote away in a way that does not do anything to further their ideal or the country. This is what happens when people decide, I'd rather burn it all down. This is what happens when people say, I'd rather vote for a homeless man than a qualified woman. This is what happens when a bunch of social media influencers convince a bunch of disenfranchised, basement-dwelling douche nozzles that, hey, you should listen to Rogan and Andrew Tate and Jordan Peterson and all these people that are speaking on behalf of what it traditionally means to be a man. And you should go troll people and tell them they're gay and use the T-slur and go after the trans folks and ha, 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 you guys will win. And you know what? You're all going to be broke. You're all going to die. It's all going to end. Because at some point, everybody dies, everybody goes broke, and everything ends. But some of us are not willing to do it, while figuratively or actually filleting a felonious, treasonous piece of crap. When they say, oh, it's garbage, garbage, garbage. Well, you shouldn't call them garbage. You shouldn't call them Nazis. Why? Well, you're never going to convince them if you do that. Correct. And if you thought we were going to convince them if we didn't do that, what happened for the first 50 years when we were trying to convince them? It's not the left that decided to start being awful, openly awful. It's Trump that decided being openly awful. And people loved it. Oh, I'm so sick of politics. It's all these lawyers and, everything's got its procedure. And then you get Marjorie Taylor Greene, who doesn't give a shit about procedure, who openly heckles the president during a State of Union. There's a lot to be done. Jimmy's not giving up. I'm not giving up. There'll be some changes for sure. But I'm not going to wait 4 years to dig into politics again. Just like I didn't wait 4 years this time. I've been doing the hang up on Wednesdays, not just as my therapy, but to deal with political issues. It's why I've had Andrew Seidel on. It's why I've had Josie on. It's why I get Jimmy on. It's why we've done everything here that we can. But this network and us, we're not enough and we're not big enough. When you've got a dipshit like, I don't know, Tim Pool or somebody who have, I don't know how many gazillion followers, being funneled money from Russian propaganda machines to specifically boost their signal in order to get Trump elected. We need more people involved. We need the line to grow, and we need to bring in more people with more political expertise. And that's why Jimmy is suggesting that we do that very thing. I have rambled on and on and on here at the end, and I want Jimmy to close it out for us.
Oh, yeah. Morgan, do you have the outro ready to go? This will be fast. Just play the intro again. That's what we do on Cause I Wanna. Not yet. It'll be obvious.
The intro, the outro, the over the hills.
My final words for you are next time, listen to Jimmy, dum-dums. It would have been great if that